Eliana Hart was clinically dead for nearly 14 minutes after being struck by a delivery truck while looking at her phone. But what she saw on the other side wasn't fire or angels, it was a chilling message from God about the silent destruction caused by modern technology. From golden threads of connection to digital chains of isolation, her near-death experience is a warning, a wake-up call, and a plea: put the phone down before it's too late.
My name is Eliana Rose Hart. I'm 35 years old, and I live in San Diego, California. I work in UX design for a digital marketing firm. Basically, my job is to figure out how to keep people glued to screens, how to get them to click, scroll, stay longer, and come back. I was good at it. I was promoted fast, respected in meetings, always connected. But somewhere inside, I knew I wasn't okay. Every morning, my hand reached for my phone before I even opened both eyes. I'd scroll through emails, headlines, and updates before saying a word to my partner, Aaron. He would try to greet me, sometimes bring me coffee, but most days I barely looked up. I wasn't trying to be rude. I just felt like my brain needed to plug in right away, like the real world didn't start until I checked in online. That feeling followed me everywhere. In the car, I'd listen to news podcasts or scroll at red lights. At work, I'd switch between tabs, meetings, and social apps without pause. Even at home, during dinner, I'd sneak glances at my phone or get pulled into videos I didn't even care about. It wasn't just habit, it was a reflex. Like breathing. Aaron would sometimes say, "You're here, but you're not really here." I'd laugh it off or change the subject. But deep down, I knew he was right. I felt a distance growing between us, and I didn't know how to close it. I didn't even know when it started. The strange part was, the more I scrolled, the more I felt disconnected. I saw people's lives, their smiles, their vacations, their perfect homes. But I didn't feel happy for them. I felt hollow. Numb. Like I was constantly consuming but never filled. I couldn't name what was wrong, so I just kept going. Kept working. Kept scrolling. There were moments, late at night, when the screen went black and it was just me in the silence, when I felt something aching inside me. Like I had forgotten something important. But I always brushed it off. I had work in the morning. Notifications to check. Content to make. I didn't know then that my soul had been starving. I just knew I didn't feel anything real anymore. It was a Thursday morning. The air in downtown San Diego was cool and damp, and the sun hadn't fully pushed through the marine layer yet. I was on my way to a client meeting, walking fast because I was running late. My phone buzzed in my hand. Someone had sent a video. Something funny, something trending. I clicked it without thinking. I was halfway through the crosswalk when it happened. 1 second I was scrolling, the next I was flying. I didn't hear brakes. I didn't see the truck. I didn't even realize I'd stepped into the street. All I remember is a loud crack and my body leaving the ground. For a split second, everything slowed. I saw sky, concrete, then nothing. There was no time to feel fear. No last thought. Just a jolt. And then silence. Then the shift. It was instant. The pain was gone. The noise, the city, the weight of my body, all of it vanished. I wasn't on the street anymore. I wasn't anywhere I could name. But I wasn't confused either. I didn't feel lost. I felt clear. Completely, shockingly clear. I didn't look down at my body. I didn't need to. I knew it was broken. I knew it was lying there. But I also knew, I wasn't in it anymore. I didn't float like in the movies. I was being pulled upward, fast, like thought had become motion. I felt light, free, like something heavy had been peeled off me. No screen, no noise, no thoughts crowding my head. Just movement and stillness at the same time. For the first time in years, I felt awake. As I moved upward, there was no sense of time. No seconds ticking by, no memory of minutes. It felt like I had stepped out of the clock and into something endless. I wasn't floating like a balloon. It was faster than that. More like being drawn by something that already knew exactly where I was supposed to go. The city, the street, the noise of life, it all faded. But it didn't vanish the way a light turns off. It peeled away, like layers of fog being lifted, and what was underneath wasn't empty. It was full. Full of presence. Full of something realer than anything I'd known before. The air felt thick, but not heavy. It shimmered around me like silk, and everything pulsed softly, like it was breathing. I couldn't hear with ears anymore, but I could sense things, like the silence itself had a sound. A hum that felt like music without notes. Then came the light. It wasn't bright like a flashlight or the sun. It didn't blind, it revealed. Every part of me felt uncovered, not in a shameful way, but like the truth was finally allowed to speak. I didn't have a body, but I could feel. And what I felt most was that I was being seen. Fully. Deeply. Completely. Then I realized I wasn't alone. There was a presence. Not a figure, not a shape I could describe, but something enormous and close at the same time. Like standing in front of the ocean, but the ocean was alive. It was aware of me. And it wasn't just watching. It knew me. It didn't speak with words. But something in me heard it clearly, like a whisper inside my bones. It said, "Eliana." And everything in me responded, yes. The moment I heard my name, I knew who it was. I didn't need proof. I didn't need explanation. Every part of me just knew. This was God. Not the version I'd heard about in childhood or seen painted in stained glass. Not a distant idea or a set of rules. This was presence. Power. Compassion. Holiness so thick it wrapped around me like gravity. I didn't see him with eyes, but I felt him in every inch of who I was. And I fell. Not physically, because I didn't have a body, but my soul bowed low. It couldn't do anything else. When you come face to face with the one who made you, you don't stand tall. You surrender. In that moment, I felt everything I had ever carried, every failure, every lie, every excuse, every scroll past my husband's voice, every moment I chose distraction over connection, it all rose to the surface. And yet, he didn't turn away. He didn't shame me. He didn't accuse me. He loved me. It came in waves. Thick, endless waves of love that didn't ignore the truth about me, they saw through it. It was love that wasn't blind, but love that saw everything and stayed. I had never known that kind of love. Not from a screen. Not from a platform. Not even from another person. It was pure. Strong. Undeniable. I wept, though I had no eyes. The tears were in my soul. It wasn't sadness exactly, it was being fully seen and still embraced. It was the kind of love that breaks you in the best possible way. Then the message began. Not in sentences. Not in commands. It came as knowing. As truth laid gently but firmly across my heart. He showed me the shape of my life. Not the outer shell, my job, my titles, my apps. The core of it. And what I saw wasn't evil. It was distracted. Numb. Half alive. You have not sinned by working, the presence said, though not in words. But you have forgotten why you were made. I wanted to speak. To explain. To apologize. But none of that mattered here. Because what was coming next wasn't punishment. It was revelation. The presence shifted around me, and suddenly I wasn't just in light, I was watching something unfold. A timeline stretched out before me, but it didn't look like a chart or a screen. It moved like water and light mixed together. I didn't watch it. I felt it. First came fire. Simple, raw, powerful. Then tools, stone and metal. Then writing, symbols carved into clay, ink on scrolls, pressed pages. I saw the printing press, its gears spinning like a heartbeat. Then electricity, glowing wires, buzzing lights. Radios. Televisions. Satellites spinning silently above Earth. The internet blooming like a web across the globe. Then smartphones, tiny glowing rectangles held in billions of hands. And finally, AI, learning faster than we could understand. It was beautiful. All of it. Not dark, not evil. It was creation. Human creativity sparked by something higher. I felt God's pride in it. He wasn't angry about it. He loved that we created. That we imagined. That we built. But then the tone shifted. As the inventions advanced, something else began to fade. I saw golden threads stretching between people, real connection, prayer, touch, presence, worship. At first, those threads were everywhere, glowing strong. But as the timeline moved forward, they began to dim. New threads appeared, digital ones. Thin, glassy, artificial. At first, they looked helpful. They moved fast. They multiplied. But they started to wrap around the golden threads, then slide in front of them, and finally began to replace them. I saw people choosing screens over faces. Silence-filled rooms where connection used to live. The golden thread shrank. God's voice pressed into me, the tools were good. The worship of them is not. And I knew exactly what he meant. We hadn't just used the tools. We had bowed to them. We had built our lives around them, looked to them for comfort, truth, identity. We had forgotten the hands on the other side of the screen. We had forgotten him. I wanted to turn away. To stop watching. But the vision kept going. Not to punish me. To wake me up. The vision narrowed, zooming in from the timeline to individual lives. I saw golden threads stretching from heart to heart, between parents and children, friends, couples, strangers. These threads weren't made of light exactly, they were made of something living. Love. Prayer. Time. Presence. Every thread hummed with warmth, like music without sound. I watched as one thread grew brighter when a mother knelt beside her child to pray. Another lit up between two friends sharing laughter over coffee. In those moments, the space between them disappeared. They were present. Fully. But then I saw something else. Thin, glassy cords began to slide in, digital chains. They looked beautiful at first. Shiny. Fast. Efficient. People tapped, scrolled, reacted. It all moved so quickly. But something was wrong. The golden threads began to fade. I saw a father on the couch, his young daughter tugging at his sleeve. She was trying to show him a drawing. He nodded without looking, his eyes locked on his phone. The golden thread between them flickered. I saw a married couple in bed, each turned to their own screen. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. They weren't angry, they were just gone, buried in digital fog. The thread between them thinned. I saw a teenage girl in her bedroom, uploading a selfie through tears. She had filters on, music playing in the background, comments already popping up. But inside, she was drowning. Her golden thread to the world hung by a thread. And still, the digital cords kept weaving. Connecting her to thousands of strangers, but leaving her soul untouched. God's presence pressed closer. Not angry. Not accusing. Just heartbreakingly gentle. He asked me, "Do you see it?" And I did. I saw that we hadn't lost connection, we'd replaced it. We had substituted presence for performance. Depth for dopamine. Real eyes for screen light. We weren't alone, not technically. But our spirits were starving. I couldn't look away. Not because I was curious. Because I was guilty. The vision shifted again. This time, I was shown two cafes. In the first, two friends sat across from each other at a small table. Their phones were face down. They were laughing, talking, leaning in. Their eyes met, their hands moved with expression. I could feel warmth between them, not just in the air, but in their spirits. Above them, golden threads glowed and twisted like a slow dance, weaving between their hearts. I saw angels nearby, not dramatic, just present, watching with joy. The whole place shimmered. It felt alive. Then the scene changed. The second cafe was nearly identical in layout, but the energy was completely different. Here, people sat alone at tables. Or sometimes across from others, but their heads were down, eyes fixed on screens. Thumbs moved. Faces were lit with pale blue glow. No one spoke. No one laughed. No one noticed anyone else. There were chords here too, but they weren't golden. They were flat, dull, flickering. They shot out from phones and tablets, connecting each person to thousands of others somewhere else, but leaving the room completely silent. There was no warmth. No spirit. Just movement without meaning. I looked around and felt the ache of it, so much activity, and yet, such emptiness. Then God said, "They are never alone. But they are deeply isolated." That sentence hit me harder than anything else I'd seen. Because it was true. We live packed in tight, digitally connected every second, but our souls barely brush against each other. I had been in that second cafe more times than I could count. I had helped build it. Then the light around me dimmed, not in anger, but in warning. I was shown a glimpse of what's coming if nothing changes. It wasn't fire or disaster. It wasn't war. It was something quieter. More dangerous. People walked through crowded streets with earbuds in, screens up, eyes down. No one looked at each other. No one spoke. Children sat in classrooms unable to focus for more than a few seconds. They twitched, shifted, stared blankly unless something flashed or beeped. Their attention had been stolen. At dinner tables, families sat together but didn't speak. Parents scrolled. Kids stared at glowing screens. There were no golden threads left in the room. Only faint digital lines, stretched thin and cold. Even churches looked different. The buildings were there. The people still came. But it was quiet, not in reverence, but in numbness. Worship had become performance. Prayer was rushed. Eyes wandered. Souls were present, but barely alive. God didn't speak, but I felt his sorrow. People weren't angry at him. They weren't even against him. They were just too distracted to care. That was the danger, not rejection, but indifference. Not rebellion, but addiction to noise. The kind that drowns out the whisper of heaven without us even noticing. Their spirits weren't broken. They were sedated. And it was happening slowly. Quietly. Everywhere. Just as the weight of that future settled in me, the vision shifted again. This time I saw light returning. Not all at once, but in sparks. I saw a family around a dinner table. No devices. No background noise. Just laughter, hands passing food, voices overlapping in real conversation. A golden thread stretched from one person to the next, then back again, looping around the whole table like a gentle light. I saw a teenage boy kneeling beside his bed, no music playing, no phone in sight. He was just still. Praying. Writing in a journal. A soft glow surrounded him. His thread burned steady and strong. I saw churches, not crowded with lights and screens, but full of voices. People singing, eyes closed, hands lifted, phones forgotten in pockets. The sound of real worship shook the air, and the golden threads shot upward like beams of joy. I saw a businessman on his lunch break, stepping away from his desk. He knelt behind a closed door, whispering thanks. No one saw him. But heaven did. His thread glowed. And with each act of real presence, more golden threads returned. Connecting people not just to each other, but back to God. They had chosen stillness over stimulation, depth over dopamine. And it made all the difference. This was the remnant. The ones who woke up before it was too late. And I knew right then I wanted to be one of them. The presence surrounded me one last time, wrapping me in a love so deep I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay there forever, no screens, no noise, no pressure, just truth, peace, and connection. But I felt God press into me, not with hands, but with certainty. A calling. Now go, he said, the words landing deep inside my spirit. Show them what connection really is. And then I was falling. Fast. Back through the light, through the silence, into pain, into weight. I gasped so hard it felt like my lungs tore open. The hospital room was bright and loud. Machines beeped. Voices shouted. But all I could think was, I'm back. I should have died. They told me later the damage was too severe, that I shouldn't have survived. But I knew better. I came back with a mission. Everything is different now. I still own a phone. I still use a laptop. But they no longer use me. I start every morning with silence, no screen, no noise, just quiet. I look my husband in the eyes when he speaks. I leave my phone in another room when we eat. I choose prayer over endless scrolling. I choose people over pixels. And now I speak. I go to churches, youth groups, anywhere someone will listen. I share what I saw, what I know. Because maybe you felt it too. That ache. That emptiness. Hear me clearly, you weren't made for scrolling. You were made for presence.